أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري والعقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ورب زدني علما اللهم آمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. This is the last review session for Behind the Scenes, a class taught by Sheikh Omar Suleiman. This review session is brought to you by Qabilat Bushra. We are going to begin with basically some practical tips in this last review sessions that Sheikh Omar spoke about. He talked about how Salah can be a protection and it can be used for us to discipline our nafs. So some of the things that we can possibly do are we can be conscious when we are reading our Salah, reflect on the words and on each action, glorify the words and think about what we are saying, and learning the meaning of the words of the Salah is one of the things that he recommended. So memorize the translation, know what you're saying during your Salah. It helps build our khushu. Some of the pre and post Salah habits that he talked about were taking the first 3 or 4 minutes before Salah and can actually make or break your Salah. He said that don't stand up in Salah right after watching television or talking on the phone, because you will not have the same khushu. So have a few minutes before Salah as your me time. Think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hassan al-Basri rahimullah said that a person in the masjid should not look around before the Salah. So in the few minutes before Salah, think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He also recommended cleaning up the area where you make your Salah, make it nice and clean, wearing your best clothes to your Salah, perfuming yourself, just smelling good essentially. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had also said that if it wasn't a hardship for my ummah, I would order them to use miswak before every Salah. So cleaning your mouth, keeping yourself clean, all of that is part of pre and post Salah habits. Post Salah would include sitting there, finishing your Salah and doing your dhikr after your Salah, staying in the same spot for a few extra minutes. And that helps build up khushu in our Salah. Now, what does khushu essentially mean? The meaning of khushu is silence. And the example used here is that on the Day of Judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the voices become silent to Ar-Rahman. And here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses the word khashia, which is a different type of silence. When Allah says this, He's basically saying that the people standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Qiyamah, they're not thinking of anything else. So it's an internal silence. Everything is focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on that day. The linguistic meaning of khushu is absolute internal silence. So absolute internal silence, that's what it means. Imam Ibn Qayyim said that there are 5 categories of people in regard to their Salah. The first category is someone who does not even do his wudu properly. So basically their Salah is worthless because they have wasted their Salah by not completing the proper pillars and not praying on time. The second category is those who perform the Salah in its correct hours and they complete the technical requirements, but they're unable to strive against themselves and against the whispers of shaitan. So it is all form and no substance. So this second category of people, their Salah is questionable. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may or may not forgive them. The third category is those who maintain its pillars and its correctness and they strive against the whispers of shaitan. So they're busy throughout the Salah. They're basically engaged in jihad. So they're not getting full khushu, but they're trying. They're fighting shaitan. This is the third category of people are those who are who are basically fighting with their nafs, and so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will possibly forgive them. The fourth category is those who, whenever they enter the Salah, they perfect the duties and their heart is focused on perfecting the Salah, and they don't waste a single opportunity to miss the Salah, and they fulfill all the internal and external requirements. This is a category of people who will be rewarded and forgiven. The fifth category is, of course, the awliya, the beloved friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they are the ones who enter into Salah and they place their hearts into the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. and they look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with their hearts, and they pray salah for the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us, all of us, of those of the fifth category who pray salah because we love to pray salah. It is part of something that we love to do, and we do it for the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. Ameen. There are three categories of voluntary prayers. Again, you can look at these. The reason these three categories are mentioned right here is because they are highly recommended. The more we put into salah, the more voluntary prayers we add to a salah, the better status we will be, inshallah. The better we have hopes of building that love relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. More benefits and rewards that can possibly earned is qiyam, doing qiyam, relationship with the Quran. It was recommended that Shaykh Umar recommended that we should finish the Quran at least once every month, so a juz a day, and he gave us a beautiful way to do this. He said about 4 pages after every salah. Read 4 pages after every salah, make it a habit, and you can read a juz a month, a juz a day, and you can essentially finish the Quran every month, inshallah ta'ala. Doing the extra du'as and adhkar, he talked about the marketplace dua. Again, look in your notes, all the du'as are there. Doing those extra adhkars are again important. Weekly wird would obviously include the Jummah experience, which he spoke about, reading Surah Kahf, fasting on Mondays and Thursdays, and the Wednesday dua that he spoke about. And then the monthly wird would of course be the fasting on the 13th and 14th, the white days, the 13th, 14th and 15th of the month, and then recognizing which month we are in. So again, finishing the Quran every month. Yearly wird would of course include Ramadan. It would also include making your fasting more focused, trying to have more khushu in your fasting as well, and fasting not just in Ramadan but the 6 days of Shawwal, Ashura, Arafat, days of Arafat. Those are the things that we need to look at for yearly with. And of course Hajj is no doubt the once in a lifetime thing that we have to do. Moving on, finally, let's talk about tazkiyah and intention. There was this beautiful sentence that Shaykh Umar spoke, and I wrote it down. It's right there on the slide, and he explained it, and there's a whole story behind it, but he explained it how beautifully when he said that how many empty bodies make tawaf around the Kaaba, and how many hearts make tawaf around the Kaaba from a distance. So it is really all about intention. At the end of the day, it is all about intention, and having the right intentions is the key to successful tazkiyah in our daily lives. And as Shaykh Umar reminded us in the beginning of the seminar, that tazkiyah is something that only ends on the day we die. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it possible for us to have better and ongoing tazkiyah, purification of our souls throughout our lives. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept what we do and the efforts we make. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us hidayah. Ameen. Finally, the exam on Sunday, April 10th. Make sure you log in to www.almaghrib.org, log into your account. The exam policies are there. The exam will be available from 9 a.m. in the morning till 9 p.m. at night. If that day is difficult, you have something else going on and you cannot take the exam, there is a you can defer the exam. You can take it on a later day in the week. Make sure you do that. Do not miss the exam. It is very, very important that we take the exam, because this is part of our purification. This is part of our tazkiyah. This is part of our learning knowledge process. Remember, the person who gains knowledge, who learns knowledge, the angels lower their wings for that person, and the fish and the animals make dua for that person. So please remember that this is part of our learning knowledge and learning process. So inshallah, log in to take the exam, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all successful in this dunya and the akhirah. Jazakumullah khairan for listening to these reviews. On behalf of Qabilat Bushra, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.